Again, normally Chris Wyatt Africa is normally live streaming at the moment right now, but he's not doing a Night Owls edition. He's gone non-stop for about 5 or 6 hours. So I'm on right now, and just hang on one second. I'm gonna get this shared to the Telegram group, and just hang on one second. All right, back on. Hope you guys are doing well. I just got it shared to Chris Wyatt's Telegram group, and hope you guys are doing well. You guys, I'm gonna do a better background for you guys. You guys see the Terminator posters right there. There you guys go. You take a look. Yeah, Terminator is one of my favorite sci-fi series. Now let's get into what and then you see Captain Jack Sparrow right there as well. Okay, let's talk about first of all, I'm glad the Afrikaans language is back in the University of South Africa. Now, with that being said, it's not going to be back in immediately. It's not going to come back to the University of South Africa, otherwise UNISA, until 2023. Now, the AfriForum had taken to court the Constitutional Court the University of South Africa banning the Afrikaans language, because Afrikaans is a language indigenous to South Africa. It was created in South Africa. It was borrowed heavily from Dutch, but there are a lot of words that are not Dutch that are Afrikaans, and somebody who speaks Dutch and not Afrikaans or vice versa, they can talk to each other a little bit, but they can't have heavy, deep conversations because there's several differences in words. And, well, South Africans have a right, according to the Constitution, to be educated in their native language. And the Afrikaans language is native to many, many South Africans, not just white South Africans. The Afrikaans language is native to colored South Africans, actually more so than white South Africans, particularly out in the Western Cape. Afrikaans is typically a Cape colored's first language, and they have a right to be educated in that language. So the AfriForum took the case to court, and the Constitutional Court agreed with AfriForum on this. Well, the University of South Africa appealed this to a higher version of South Africa's Constitutional Court, and the higher court ruled again in favor of AfriForum. So by 2023, the University of South Africa, otherwise known as UNISA, must put back in place the Afrikaans language. And as Chris White pointed out before, Afrikaans is an indigenous language to South Africa. Yes, borrowed heavily from Dutch, but the Afrikaans language was also included words from other languages and created in the nation of South Africa. So South Africa, Afrikaans isn't one. Afrikaans is an official language of South Africa. That's number one. Number two, Afrikaans is not just the first language of many white South Africans. Many colored South Africans speak Afrikaans as their first language versus English, particularly out in Cape Town in the Western Cape province. So we talked about that as well. All right. Go further than that. All right. Okay. The EFF, and this is comical what they want to do. They say they're not gonna adhere to the Constitutional Court's ruling in that. They're not going to adhere to the Constitutional Court's ruling, the economic freedom fighters. They say that there needs to be a Swahili instructional program for the University of South Africa as well. Now, here is the thing. This is comical. Swahili is not indigenous to any parts of South Africa. Most South Africans do not speak or understand Swahili. Parts of Mozambique, Swahili is spoken and understood. Parts of Rwanda, but not in South Africa. Okay? Swahili is a language that is indigenous to Kenya and to Uganda. Okay? That is just very, very asinine on the EFF's part to want a Swahili instructional courses at the University of South Africa in South Africa, where Swahili has no ties to that specific nation. So, yeah, that is just asinine. And Afrikaans is one of the 11 official languages of South Africa, and also Afrikaans is in the South African national anthem. Okay, we need to make note of that. Okay, Afrikaans is in the South African national anthem, and I wanted to address that on this stream. So just hang on one second. I'm gonna get this shared to another Telegram group. So just hang on, guys. Get this situated as well to this other group. Just hang on. There you guys go. All right. I understand that it's late in South Africa right now. It is 9:10. Many of you guys are probably already in bed, and I understand that. All right. So let's address we addressed the Afrikaans language, and at UNISA, and the Afrikaans language has been restored to UNISA, but it will not immediately, but it's going to come back in 2023. All right, we'll talk about as well. Excuse me, just hang on one second. Okay, talk about as well what is going on in. Just hang on one second. Okay, from Front Page Africa, this is what's going on in Liberia right now in West Africa, and this is actually the Inspector General of Police says multiple reports of ritualistic killings, disappearances, or fake news are intended to malign the government's image. So, in Monrovia, in recent months, reported cases of ritual killings have surged in Liberia, but the country's police inspector general, Patrick Sadu, and his deputy, Prince Mulbah, say such reports are untrue and being fueled by opposition politicians to tarnish the image of the government. I hope that is true, because this ritualistic killings are sick and sadistic. I just hope people are being paid to tarnish the image of the country and to raise false national security alert. I'm not in Liberia. I don't know which one is true and which one is not, but I pray that is fake news. I'm not supporting one political party or another, but I pray that is just fake news, because that is just sick and sadistic that something like that would be going on. So, all right. Talk about what was going on in Liberia. Talk about what the Afrikaans language in South Africa as well. Well, okay. I talked about South African municipal elections on the last stream. Talked about the South African municipal elections. All right, now this is ridiculous. This is coming from NBC News about Asia, South Korea, and Dawn Mi Choi. She was born in Seoul, South Korea, but she lives in Seattle, and she wants readers to reflect on how lives overlap and how they're tragically connected. And she's calling attention to South Korea's violent imperial past. Dawn Mi Choi, and that's female Korean American, Dawn Mi Choi, she says the day before, she's talking about the MacArthur Foundation. Okay, Che learned she had been named a 2021 MacArthur Fellow, and as you guys know, Douglas MacArthur is the one that led the UN forces, not through all of the Korean War. President Harry Truman sacked him, but he led the UN forces through a good portion of the Korean War. Well, Dawn Mi Choi learned that she had been named a 2021 MacArthur Fellow, okay? Knew she'd have to keep secret for a couple weeks until it was publicly announced Tuesday. The fellowship, commonly known as Genius Grant, is a $625,000, no strings attached award that's paid out over 5 years. This year's class of 25 fellows there was a historian, Ibram X. Kendi, computational virologist Trevor Bedford, and then Safiya Noble, who's a digital media scholar. She was in shock. She never dreamed that something like happened where Dawn Mi Choi had said that. Well, anonymously nominated and evaluated, she was selected to work hard for her creative work that bears witness to the effects of military violence and U.S. imperialism on the civilians in the Korean Peninsula. She said, I will continue to explore and reflect on the neo-colonial violence within the historical context of South Korea and U.S. realms. All right, here's the thing. The United States sent over 500,000 500,000 soldiers to South Korea to liberate South Korea from North Korea's communist invasion. The United States accounted for 93% of the air forces, 86% of the naval forces, and over about 50% of the entire ground forces. And the United States had faced massive military cuts between World War II and Korea, and initially a lot of their military equipment was not state of the art, and their soldiers had not been well trained when they were doing easy occupational duty in Japan between 1945 and 1952. Yet they came to South Korea anyway, and they turned back the North Korean invasion. The U.S. had nothing to gain politically by doing that, but the United States did so anyway. In North Korea, it is illegal to listen to K-pop songs without getting time in the gulag. In North Korea, it is also illegal to be watching South Korean dramas without getting time in the gulag as well. Freedom of the press in North Korea was banned in 1946, and North Korea tried to implement the same thing when they came and invaded South Korea and occupied parts of South Korea before the United Nations forces led by the United States drove them out. Many Christian churches could not worship freely in North Korea. When North Korea came, and many of them had to hide their Bibles. They had to hide their church organs, and it was just madness when North Korea occupied the city of Seoul, South Korea. Bibles came out, and the church bells rang freely whenever the United Nations forces, led by the United States, came in. And the last two works, the 2020 National Book Award winner for poetry, she calls South Korea DMZ colony and hardly war. Yet she's living in Seattle, Washington, in the United States, where we have freedom of speech to criticize your own country. That is something you don't have in North Korea. You try to criticize your own country's government, you get executed. Plain and simple. Okay, and this lady was born in Seoul during the military dictatorship of Park Chung-hee. Che arrived in the U.S. alone on a student visa in 1981, a year after the Gwangju Massacre. The U.S. was not involved in the Gwangju Massacre at all. That's a blatant lie. Believing they would be able to return to Korea, Che's family separated and settled all over. On a plane from Hong Kong to Los Angeles, Che said she cried nonstop. She with me a bag of paints, brushes, and pencils. Somehow, the MacArthur news made me think of my first arrival to the U.S. And she's going around the world. She's going to be teaching in Germany next. Here's the thing with that, okay? All right, so 85% of South Koreans have a favorable opinion of the United States. It's the highest in almost any country. And most South Koreans want a steady U.S.-South Korean relationship, and they want the U.S. forces to stay in South Korea. Those are polls from regular South Koreans. Those are not polls from Americans that are in South Korea. Okay, that is, and then she's enjoying time in the United States as well. Yes, Park Chung-hee did not have civil liberties but the economy was well under him, and he said his main goal was to make Korea a transitional democracy, but Park Chung-hee also felt that communism, a lot of South Koreans didn't truly know what communism was. So, and Park Chung-hee, even though he did oppress people, he didn't kill that many people. He jailed a lot of people though. But he lived modestly himself. He did not live luxuriously while his people starved. His people actually got richer under him, and he had this program called Semaul, he used government funds to clear a lot of the debt that Korean fishermen and farmers had, and a lot of houses in rural Korea were developed, and roads as well, thanks to his program Semaul. So she misses that part. The article also misses that part of Park Chung-hee, that he did a lot of good things for Korea, and he is the reason that South Korea's economy really increased over the years. Now, with that being said, yeah, he was not, he ruled with an iron fist. That is absolutely true. But at the same time, South Korea's economy would have not developed without him. But yes, okay. So that is the latest news out of South Korea as well. Or not latest news out of South Korea, but latest news out of the Korean American Don Mi Chae, and she criticizing U.S. imperialism and the U.S. involvement in South Korea. Well, the U.S. Actually, the former CEO of Hyundai, Chung Chu-yun, he actually founded the company. He got his first job as an engineer helping the U.S. Army build a lot of roads in South Korea. So the U.S. Army kind of educated him, not book-wise, but work-wise. And that's something that people need to know. That's true. All right. Discussed that. Talked about that. I understand it's past 10 o'clock in South Africa. Most of you guys are probably asleep. But once this stream gets uploaded, then you guys will probably watch it. That's the typical situation with my live streams, actually. The people don't watch them some people watch them when it's there, and I get likes, but after I upload it and it's there and then it's there on my list of videos, people watch it after the fact, and that's fine. I understand you guys have lives. You guys, you want to watch live. You want to watch taped or later. I understand that. That's not a big deal. It's cool. Okay. Talked about what was going on in Asia. All right. Now, this is according to Fox News as well. North Korea's Kim Jong-un moves to restore communication with South Korea. Phone and fax communications between the two Koreas have been mostly dormant for a year now. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reportedly ordered officials to restore hotline with South Korea to promote peace, in a move that experts believe is intended to pit Seoul against Washington. That is true because Joe Biden wants a more hardline approach with North Korea than does Moon Jae-in. And even between Donald Trump and Moon Jae-in wanted more of a soft line approach than Donald Trump, believe it or not. But because what Moon Jae-in wanted originally, now he's been held at bay by the United States from doing this, but Moon Jae-in wanted a sunshine policy, which was like Kim Dae-jung and No Moo-hyun. He wants an unconditional economic aid to North Korea, which is going to be disastrous if that happens. Well, the direct lines between the two Koreas without the United States is going to be a problem, because the unconditional economic aid to North Korea, called the Sunshine Policy, is not effective. The last time the Sunshine Policy happened, North Korea still continued nuclear weapons building and nuclear weapons tests, number one. Number two, the average North Korean citizen did not see any of the aid, any of the food aid, any of the clothing, nothing that came. The only thing, the government officials pocketed any of the money, they pocketed the clothing, and they only distributed the food and clothing amongst the elite government officials. North Korean defectors to South Korea, the average North Korean person, has testified that they saw none of that aid when South Korean presidents Kim Dae-jung and No Moo-hyun implemented the Sunshine Policy. That's one reason I call the Sunshine Policy a shoeshine policy, because it's largely ineffective. And that's one reason South Korea's Conservative Party, South Korean conservative Lee Myung-bak, became president, and he declared an end to the Sunshine Policy because the Sunshine Policy was not effective. And when North Korea fell victim to a flood back in 2012, Lee Myung-bak sent aid to North Korea to help rebuild from the flood. Well, he pulled the aid because it was found that North Korea was using a lot of that aid to try to build their military and build nuclear weapons, and not rebuild the damaged areas from the flood. So that's what happened there. So I don't like this rebuilding of the phone lines between the two Koreas. I don't think it's going to be effective, and I think it's going to try to make the U.S.-South Korean alliance fragile. Do I think it's going to work? I have no idea, but I don't think so. But I can't predict the future. So yeah, that's that. I mean, I can't predict the future. All right, I'm back on news on Africa. The Central African Republic, the CAR, several countries, well, mostly it's been Russia, Rwanda, but then also it was Gabon that sent soldiers to the Central African Republic to try to keep order. And I don't think the Central African Republic government is good in this, and I don't think the rebels are good. I think the government may be the lesser of two evils. But the Gabon was sent their military to aid the Central African Republic's government in their civil war that's going on. Well, Gabon's military had recalled its military. The nation of Gabon recalled their military because there were a lot of sexual harassment allegations and rape allegations coming from the citizens of the Central African Republic. They said a lot of Gabon soldiers did inappropriate things or said inappropriate things to them. You know, you're there to protect the people. It's not something you need to be doing. And the government of Gabon is going to investigate these situations. And if they are deemed to be true, then those soldiers need to be kicked out of the military. That's not something that needs to be done. But that is what's going on in the Central African Republic. Gabon had recalled all their soldiers that were deployed to the Central African Republic. So, yeah, and actually it wasn't just the Gabon government that did that. The UN removed the Gabon peacekeepers after sex abuse allegations. The United Nations sent home all 450 Gabonese troops from its peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic and opened an investigation after allegations of sexual abuse of 5 girls, it said on Wednesday. And that was reported September 15th, so that was about 3 weeks ago. But yeah, it's not something you do, obviously. Common sense. And that doesn't give Gabon a good reputation, by the way. It just really doesn't. Alright. You guys are obviously busy. I'm going to probably end the stream in about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay. This is not a controversial thing on Mauritania, but they are advancing a 10 GW project. It's to promote green hydrogen development. It's called Project Noor. The government of Mauritania has signed a memorandum of understanding called an MOU to progress Project Noor, a green hydrogen development of up to 10 GW. The MOU signed with Chariot is in line with Mauritania's objective to become a world leader in the production of green hydrogen. Project Noor has been given exclusivity over an onshore and offshore area totaling approximately 14,400 square kilometers to carry out pre-feasibility and feasibility studies with the intention of generating electricity from solar and wind resources to be used in electrolysis. So, wish them all the best with this, but Mauritania needs to abolish slavery. Well, they have, but Mauritania, since 2007, when Mauritania told the world that they would go after slaveholders and prosecute them, only one slaveholder has been documented to be prosecuted. Only one. That's not acceptable. And Mauritania agreed to abolish slavery in 1981, but that rule is very rarely, if ever, enforced. That's not acceptable. So anyways, I'm going to end the stream here. Hope you guys are doing well. Take care. God bless. And bye-bye. Bye-bye.